Maria had been working as a nanny for many years. She took care of children in a big house in a rich part of town. Every morning, she woke up early, got dressed in her simple clothes, and went to work. The children loved her because she was kind and always smiled. But Maria's life was not easy. She lived in a small, old apartment far from the city center. Sometimes, when she finished her work late, she felt tired and alone. But she never complained. She believed that if she worked hard and stayed kind, good things would come her way. One rainy evening, after a long day at work, Maria was walking home. The sky was dark, and the rain fell softly but steadily. She held a small umbrella in her hand, but it did not cover her completely. Her shoes were wet, and her clothes stuck to her body. She hurried along the empty streets, thinking about dinner and rest. As she walked past a park bench near the corner of the street, she noticed a man sitting there. He was dressed in old clothes that looked wet from the rain. His hair was messy, and his face showed tiredness. His eyes were sad but kind. Maria stopped for a moment and looked at him. The man looked up and saw Maria standing there. He gave a small, tired smile. Maria felt a little scared at first. She had never spoken to a homeless person before. But then she remembered something her mother used to say, always help those who need help. Sometimes, a small kindness can change a life. Without saying a word, Maria opened her umbrella wider and walked toward the man. She took out a small sandwich from her bag and handed it to him. "Here, please eat this," she said softly. The man took the sandwich carefully, as if afraid it might disappear. He looked at Maria with surprise. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I'm Ben." Maria smiled. "I'm Maria." They talked for a few minutes. Ben told Maria that he had been homeless for several months. He lost his job and had no family to help him. He slept in parks or old buildings and looked for small jobs during the day. Maria listened carefully. She did not judge him. Ben said, "It is hard to live like this. People look at me like I am invisible. But I try to keep hope." Maria felt something warm inside. She wanted to help him more. She gave him her umbrella to keep him dry until the rain stopped. "You can come with me to a shelter," she offered. "It's warm and safe." Ben shook his head. "Thank you, but I want to find my own way. I don't want to be a burden." Maria nodded. She understood. Still, she promised to bring him food and clothes when she could. For the next few days, Maria visited Ben every evening. She brought him hot food and dry clothes. Sometimes, they just sat and talked. Maria learned that Ben was a good man with big dreams. He loved music and wanted to start his own small business someday. He told stories about his childhood, the places he loved, and the people he missed. Maria started to see Ben not just as a homeless man, but as a person with hopes, fears, and kindness. She felt a strange connection with him. It was not easy for her to admit, but she looked forward to their meetings. One day, Maria's friends asked her about Ben. They laughed and said, "Why do you waste your time on a homeless man? He will never have a good life." Maria felt sad but did not answer. She knew that the world could be cruel, but she believed that everyone deserved a chance. Ben noticed Maria's sadness. "Don't listen to them," he said. "What matters is what we believe, not what others say." Maria smiled. "Thank you, Ben. You give me hope too." Their friendship grew stronger every day. They shared stories, dreams, and small moments of happiness. Maria helped Ben find a job cleaning houses during the day. It was not much, but it was a start. One evening, as they sat on the park bench again, Ben looked at Maria with a smile. "You are the first person who believed in me when I had nothing," he said softly. Maria looked at him, her eyes shining. "And you showed me what true kindness means." The rain started again, but this time, they did not hurry to leave. They sat quietly, feeling the peace of being together. For Maria and Ben, that rainy evening was the beginning of something new, a bond built on trust, respect, and hope. Days passed, and Maria's visits to Ben became a part of her daily routine. Every evening, after finishing her work as a nanny, she would stop by the park to find Ben sitting on the same old bench. Sometimes, the bench was wet from the rain, but Ben never missed a chance to be there. When Maria arrived, she would smile and share whatever food she had brought. At first, Ben was quiet. He had learned to keep his feelings hidden. The world had been unkind to him for a long time. But Maria's gentle voice and warm smile began to break down the walls he had built around his heart. One evening, as the sun set behind the tall buildings, Maria sat beside Ben. The orange and pink sky painted a soft light on their faces. "How do you stay strong?" Maria asked quietly. "Even after everything you have been through?" Ben looked at her for a moment. Then he said, "It is not easy. Sometimes, I feel like giving up. But I remember my dreams. I want a better life. For me, and maybe one day, for someone I love." Maria nodded, understanding his words better than he knew. She too had dreams, small ones, like saving money to fix her old apartment or someday visiting the countryside. But she had never dared to speak them aloud. "Do you believe dreams can come true?" Maria asked softly. Ben smiled. "I believe they must. Without dreams, what is life?" From that day, their talks grew deeper. Ben told Maria about his childhood in a small town. He spoke of his mother's laughter and his father's hard work. He told stories of playing by the river and chasing the sunset. Maria listened, imagining a life so different from her own. Maria shared stories too about the children she cared for, the small joys in their laughter, and the quiet moments when the world felt peaceful. They laughed together, and sometimes, their eyes filled with tears, remembering better days and hoping for new ones. One cold night, Maria noticed Ben shivering. His thin coat was not enough to keep out the cold wind. Without thinking, she took off her scarf and wrapped it around his neck. "Thank you," Ben whispered, touched by her kindness. Maria smiled. "You need to stay warm. I want you to be safe." As the days grew colder, Maria brought Ben more warm clothes. She saved money from her small salary to buy a thick jacket and shoes that would protect his feet. Ben was overwhelmed by her generosity. "You don't have to do this," he said one evening, his voice full of emotion. "You are helping me more than I deserve." Maria shook her head. "Everyone deserves help when they need it. You helped me too, Ben. You showed me hope." Ben looked at her, his eyes shining in the dim light. "You are my hope." Their bond grew stronger with every shared meal and every quiet conversation. They were no longer just a nanny and a homeless man. They were two people who had found friendship in the darkest times. One day, Maria heard about a small job opening in a nearby shop. It was for a cleaner, not much pay, but a start. She told Ben right away. Ben's face lit up. "I want to try." Maria helped him prepare. She gave him clean clothes and practiced with him how to speak to customers. Ben worked hard, arriving early and leaving late. The shop owner noticed his dedication and gave him more hours. Ben's small job gave him a sense of pride. For the first time in months, he felt useful and respected. Maria felt proud of him too. She knew it was only the beginning of a long journey, but every step forward mattered. One afternoon, while Ben was working, Maria met her friends at a cafe. They asked about Ben, and Maria told them everything: how he was working, how kind he was, how he had dreams like anyone else. But her friends only laughed. "A homeless man," one said. "You shouldn't waste your time." "Why would you want to help someone like that?" another added. "You deserve better." Maria's smile faded. She felt hurt, but she did not argue. She knew their words came from judgment and fear. Later, when Maria met Ben, she told him about the friend's reaction. Ben held her hand gently. "Don't let their words break you," he said. "We know the truth about each other. That is what matters." Maria nodded, feeling strength in Ben's words. As winter approached, life became harder for Ben. The cold nights were long and cruel. Sometimes, Maria worried about his health. One night, she found him coughing badly and pale. "I will take you to a doctor," she said firmly. Ben shook his head. "I can't afford it." Maria did not listen. She helped him get treatment at a small clinic nearby. The doctor said Ben had a bad cold and needed rest. Maria stayed with him, bringing food and keeping him warm. She refused to leave his side until he smiled again. Through these moments, their friendship turned into something deeper. It was more than just kindness or help. It was trust and care, the kind that made both of them feel alive. One evening, as they sat by the fire in Maria's small apartment, Ben looked at Maria and said, "Thank you for believing in me. I never thought I would find someone like you." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "And I never thought I would find someone who made me feel this way." They sat together, quiet but full of hope. The world outside might have been cold and harsh, but inside that little apartment, a new warmth was growing. A warmth that would change their lives forever. Maria and Ben's friendship was growing stronger every day. They laughed together, shared meals, and dreamed quietly of a better future. But outside their small world, people did not always understand. One afternoon, Maria was invited to a small gathering at her friend's house. It was a chance to meet people she had worked with for years. She wanted to share her happiness, so she told them about Ben, the man who had become important to her. At first, her friends listened quietly. But soon, some of them started to laugh. One woman whispered loudly, "Why would Maria want to spend time with a homeless man? It doesn't make sense." Another man shook his head and said, "She deserves someone better. Someone with a good job and a clean house." Maria's heart sank. She felt the cold weight of judgment in the room. She wanted to speak up, but the words caught in her throat. Her friends looked at her as if she had made a mistake. That night, Maria walked home alone. Her hands trembled, and tears filled her eyes. She asked herself again and again, why do people care so much about money and status? Why can't they see what I see? The next day, Maria met Ben in the park as usual. She sat beside him, silent at first. "Are you okay?" Ben asked softly. Maria looked at him, trying to smile. "Some people laughed at us yesterday. They said I should find someone better." Ben took her hand. "Let them laugh. We know the truth about each other. That is what matters." Maria looked down but felt the warmth of his hand. "I'm scared, Ben." What if they never accept us? Ben shook his head. Maria, love is not about what others say. It is about what we feel inside. If we believe in each other, nothing else matters. Maria wiped her tears and nodded. She knew Ben was right, but the hurt was still deep. In the days that followed, Maria noticed the whispers when she walked down the street. Some neighbors looked at her strangely. At work, a few people avoided her. It felt like a cold wind blowing everywhere she went. Ben saw the pain in her eyes. One evening, he said, "Maria, let's forget what others say. Let's build our own world. A world where kindness and love are the strongest things." Maria smiled, feeling hope grow again. "Yes, Ben." Together, they started dreaming louder. They talked about the future: a small home they could share, a garden with flowers, and maybe even a little dog. These dreams gave them strength. But the challenges did not stop. One day, Maria's boss asked her to come to the office. She was nervous, wondering what she had done wrong. Her boss looked at her carefully and said, "Maria, I heard about your friendship with that man. Some people say it is not good for your job. They worry it might affect your work." Maria felt her heart drop. "I promise it will not affect my work." Her boss sighed. "Just be careful, Maria. People talk, and you don't want trouble." Maria left the office feeling confused and sad. She loved her job, but it seemed like she had to choose between her work and Ben. That night, she told Ben everything. He listened quietly, then said, "Maria, you are strong. Don't let them take away your happiness. We will face this together." Maria nodded. She knew she could not give up. One afternoon, Maria's friends invited her to a party. She hesitated but decided to go. Maybe she could change their minds. At the party, the laughter started again when Ben was mentioned. "A homeless man," one guest whispered. "How can she think he is good enough?" Maria felt her cheeks burn with shame, but she stood tall. "Ben is a good person. He works hard and cares deeply. He is my friend." The room fell silent. Some guests looked surprised, others uncomfortable. No one said more. Later, Maria left the party early, feeling tired but proud. She had spoken for Ben and for herself. When she got home, Ben was waiting. He smiled and said, "You did well." Maria smiled back. "I want the world to see what I see." Ben took her hand. "One day, they will." Days turned into weeks. Maria and Ben continued their journey. They faced judgment, but their bond only grew stronger. They learned to trust each other more deeply. One evening, while walking home, Maria asked, "Ben, do you think people will ever stop judging us?" Ben looked at her thoughtfully. "Maybe not all. But we can teach them with our actions. Kindness, honesty, and love speak louder than words." Maria felt a new strength inside her. "Yes. We will show them." As winter came, Maria and Ben faced cold winds and cold hearts. But inside their small world, a fire of hope burned bright. Their story was not just about two people. It was about courage: the courage to love when the world doubts, to believe when others mock, and to hold on when times are hard. Maria and Ben were ready for whatever came next, knowing their hearts were strong enough to face anything. Winter's cold had slowly started to fade, and the first signs of spring were beginning to show. Maria and Ben spent many evenings walking through the small park where they first met. The trees were starting to bloom with tiny green leaves, and the air felt fresher, lighter. It was a time of new beginnings, a perfect time for something important to happen. Ben had been thinking about this moment for many days. He wanted to ask Maria a question that was bigger than any dream they had shared so far. It was a question about their future, a future that he hoped would be together, always. One quiet evening, after the children Maria cared for were asleep, she invited Ben to her small apartment for dinner. Maria cooked a simple meal with what little she had: rice, vegetables, and a small piece of chicken. They sat at the small table, eating and talking about the little things that made life special. After dinner, Ben took Maria's hand gently. His eyes were filled with both nervousness and hope. "Maria," he began softly, "you have been my light in the darkness. You helped me when no one else would. You showed me kindness and gave me hope." Maria looked at him, her heart beating faster. Ben continued, "I may not have much to give. I don't have a big house or money, but I have my heart, and it belongs to you." Maria's eyes grew wide as Ben slowly reached into his pocket. From there, he pulled out a small, simple ring. It was not shiny or expensive. It was made of a thin, twisted wire, something he had found and carefully shaped himself. "Maria," Ben said, "will you marry me?" For a moment, Maria was silent. Tears filled her eyes. She felt a deep warmth in her heart, a love she had never expected to find. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Ben, I will." They hugged each other tightly, both feeling that the hardest times were behind them. Their love had grown in the most unlikely places, but it was real and strong. The next days were full of hope and excitement. Maria and Ben talked about their wedding, not a big or expensive party, but a celebration of love with people who cared. However, not everyone was happy for them. When Maria told her family about the engagement, her mother was quiet. "Are you sure, Maria?" she asked gently. "Ben has nothing. You are risking a lot." Maria nodded, holding her mother's hand. "I am sure. Ben is kind and honest. That is more important than money." Her mother sighed but did not say more. At work, some of Maria's colleagues started to gossip. They said she was making a mistake. They told her to think carefully before marrying a man who had been homeless. Maria felt tired but refused to let their words take away her happiness. She believed that love could change everything. Ben, too, worked harder than ever. He saved every penny he could, hoping to give Maria a better life. He took extra cleaning jobs and helped at the small shop whenever possible. One afternoon, as Ben was walking home with a small bouquet of wildflowers, he stopped by Maria's apartment. She opened the door and smiled. "I brought these for you," Ben said shyly, handing her the flowers. Maria's eyes lit up. "Thank you, Ben. They are beautiful." They sat together by the window, watching the city lights turn on one by one. The world outside was full of noise and hurry, but inside, there was peace. Ben said, "Maria, I know we have many challenges ahead. People may judge us, but as long as we have each other, nothing else matters." Maria nodded. "I believe that too." Their love felt like a quiet promise, a promise to face the world together, no matter what. As the wedding day grew closer, Maria and Ben began to prepare in their own simple way. Maria borrowed a white dress from a kind neighbor, and Ben cleaned his only shirt until it shone. They planned a small ceremony in the park where they had first met, a place full of memories and hope. The day before the wedding, Maria and Ben sat on their favorite bench in the park. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Ben took Maria's hand and said, "I want you to know something. Maria looked at him curiously. No matter what happens tomorrow, I am proud to marry you. You gave me a reason to believe again. Maria smiled through her tears. And you gave me love when I needed it most. They sat together in silence, the promise of tomorrow filling their hearts with joy. That night, as Maria lay in bed, she thought about the journey they had taken. From a rainy evening and a simple sandwich, to dreams of a shared future, life had surprised her. She whispered to herself, love can come from the most unexpected places. And with that thought, she closed her eyes, ready to face whatever tomorrow would bring. The morning of the wedding arrived with bright sunshine and a clear blue sky. Maria woke up early, her heart beating fast with excitement and nerves. She looked at herself in the small mirror of her apartment. Her borrowed white dress hung carefully on a chair. It was simple but beautiful, and it made her feel like she was part of something special. She thought about Ben and smiled. He was probably getting ready too, hoping this day would be perfect. Maria's small apartment was quiet, except for the soft sounds of birds outside the window. She packed a small bag with a few things, the ring Ben had given her, a photo of her parents, and a tiny bouquet of wildflowers she had picked earlier. Ben was busy too, putting on his cleanest clothes. His shirt was white and freshly ironed, and his shoes were polished as best as he could. He looked in the cracked mirror of the small room where he stayed and smiled at his reflection. Today is the day, he whispered. They both had simple dreams for the wedding. It would be held in the park where they first met, the same bench where they had shared their hopes and fears. It was a place full of meaning for them. Maria left her apartment carrying a small box with her wedding dress and walked to the park. Ben was already there, sitting nervously on the bench, watching the path. When Maria appeared, wearing her dress, Ben's eyes lit up. She looked radiant in the soft light of the morning Sunday. Maria, he said softly, you look beautiful. Maria smiled shyly. And you look very handsome. The park was quiet, except for a few early morning walkers and the songs of birds. Maria and Ben had invited only a few people, those who truly cared about them. There were some neighbors, a kind shop owner where Ben worked, and a couple of Maria's close friends who believed in their love. As the small group gathered, the air was filled with a mixture of happiness and nervous excitement. The ceremony began simply but beautifully. A kind woman from the neighborhood, who had known Maria for years, spoke words about love and kindness. She said, today, we celebrate not only the love between Maria and Ben but also the strength it takes to believe in each other. Maria and Ben held hands tightly, looking into each other's eyes. When it was time to say their vows, Ben took a deep breath and spoke. Maria, you came into my life when I had almost lost hope. You showed me kindness and love. I promise to stand by you always, to support you, and to share every moment of our lives. Maria's voice trembled as she replied, Ben, you taught me what it means to believe and to love without fear. I promise to be with you through every challenge and joy. When they exchanged their simple rings, a soft cheer came from the small crowd. But then, something unexpected happened. One of Maria's old friends, the same who had laughed at their friendship before, stood up and whispered loudly, how can you marry a homeless man? This is a joke. A few others laughed quietly, and the mood in the park changed. Maria felt her face flush with embarrassment and sadness. She looked at Ben, who remained calm and steady. Ben stood up slowly and took the microphone that had been set up for the ceremony. The crowd quieted down, curious to hear what he would say. Ben's voice was calm but strong. Everyone here sees me as a man who once had nothing. Maybe you think I am not worthy of Maria. But I want to tell you something important. He looked at Maria, then back at the crowd. Life is not about where we start. It is about what we do with the chances we are given. Maria saw something in me that others did not: kindness, hope, and love. Those things are more valuable than money or status. Ben took a deep breath and smiled. Maria and I are not perfect, but we are honest. We have worked hard, and we will continue to do so. I am proud to marry her, and I will do everything I can to make her happy. The crowd was silent. Some faces showed surprise. Others looked thoughtful. Maria felt tears in her eyes. She stood beside Ben, proud of his words. The woman who had spoken earlier smiled and said, "Ben's words are true. Love and kindness make us strong. Let us remember that." Slowly, the guests clapped, and the atmosphere warmed again. The rest of the day was filled with laughter, stories, and simple joy. Maria and Ben danced under the sunlight, feeling the world was finally theirs. Later, as the sun began to set, Maria and Ben sat together on the bench where their journey began. They held hands and watched the sky change colors. "Today was perfect," Maria said softly. Ben nodded. "Not because it was easy, but because we were together." Maria smiled. "No matter what happens, we have each other." Ben squeezed her hand gently. "Always." That night, as they rested in Maria's small apartment, they knew their story was only beginning. There would be challenges ahead, but their love had already overcome much. They were ready to face the future hand in hand, heart to heart. After the wedding, Maria and Ben felt a new sense of hope and purpose. They knew their journey was just beginning. The challenges they faced before were not gone, but now they had each other to face them with. The days after their wedding were filled with small but important steps. Ben continued working at the shop, learning new skills and saving every penny he could. Maria kept caring for the children she loved, doing her best at work even though some colleagues still whispered behind her back. One morning, Maria woke up early and looked at Ben sleeping peacefully beside her. She felt a deep happiness in her heart. "We can do this," she thought. "Together, we can make a better life." They talked about their dreams, not big, expensive dreams, but simple ones. A small apartment of their own. A kitchen where Maria could cook warm meals every day. A place where they could invite friends and feel safe. Ben found a small room nearby for rent. It was not fancy, but it was clean and warm. They moved their few belongings there, feeling proud that they had a place to call home. The neighborhood was quiet, and the neighbors were friendly. One woman from the building welcomed them with a smile and offered to help if they ever needed anything. Ben and Maria worked hard to make their new place feel like home. They cleaned the small kitchen and hung a curtain on the window. Maria planted a few flowers in small pots. Ben fixed a broken chair he found outside. Every little task made their home more special. But life was not easy. Money was always tight. Sometimes, they had to choose between buying food or paying the rent. Some days, exhaustion made them want to give up. One afternoon, Ben came home feeling tired and discouraged. He sat down beside Maria and said, "I want to do more for us. I want to find a better job, one that can help us live comfortably." Maria held his hand. "We will find a way, Ben. Step by step, we will get there." They searched for new jobs together. Ben went to interviews and talked to shop owners and helpers. Maria used her savings to buy a few small things for a business idea she had. She wanted to start a small daycare in their home, a place where working parents could leave their children safely while they worked. Ben loved the idea. "You have such a big heart, Maria. I will help you however I can. Maria smiled. And you will be the best helper. They began to prepare. Maria cleaned the rooms, gathered toys and books, and put up colorful pictures on the walls. Ben fixed the small yard outside so the children could play. When the first child arrived, Maria felt a joy she had never known before. She cared for the children as if they were her own, singing songs, telling stories, and teaching them new things. Ben helped with the cooking and cleaning, always making sure everything was ready. Slowly, more families came, and the little daycare became known in the neighborhood. Parents were happy to leave their children in a safe and loving place. Maria and Ben felt proud. They were building a life from hope and hard work. One evening, as they sat together after a long day, Maria said, "I never imagined life could be this good." Ben smiled and said, "We created this together." But even with success, challenges remained. One day, a man came to the daycare and asked questions about Maria and Ben. He seemed suspicious and said, "Are you sure this place is safe? You don't have much experience." Maria answered calmly, "We care deeply for every child. We work hard to keep them safe and happy." The man left without saying more, but Maria and Ben felt worried. They knew some people still judged them because of their past. But they did not let fear stop them. Instead, they worked harder, asking happy parents to share their stories with others. Slowly, the neighborhood began to trust the daycare. Their love and hard work were changing not only their lives but the lives of others too. One day, Maria received a letter from her mother. It was short but full of love. "I am proud of you, Maria. You and Ben are brave. Keep believing." Maria showed the letter to Ben. They smiled, knowing family support was growing. The little apartment became a place of laughter and dreams. Maria and Ben often sat by the window, watching the city lights and talking about their future. "We will keep working, learning, and loving," Ben said one night. Maria nodded. "Our story is not finished yet. We have so much more to give." As spring turned into summer, their life was full of small victories and big love. Maria and Ben had built something stronger than a house or money. They built a home in each other's hearts. They knew there would still be hard days ahead, but together, they could face anything. And that was enough. Months passed, and Maria and Ben's little daycare grew slowly but surely. Their hard work had made a difference, not just for themselves, but for many families in their neighborhood. The children laughed, played, and learned in the warm space they had created, and the parents were grateful for the care and love their children received. One morning, Maria was busy preparing snacks when Ben came in with a big smile on his face. "Maria," he said excitedly, "I have news." Maria looked up, curious. "What is it?" Ben took her hands and said, "I was offered a full-time job at the shop, a better position with more hours and more money. They see how hard I've worked, and they want me to help manage the store." Maria's eyes filled with tears of happiness. "That's wonderful, Ben. You deserve it." Ben smiled and said, "It means we can save more, maybe even move to a bigger home one day." Maria nodded, feeling hopeful for the future. Their life was changing, slowly but for the better. But the true strength of their story was not just in their jobs or money. It was in their love, their trust, and the way they supported each other every day. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Maria and Ben sat on their small balcony, holding hands. The sky was painted with orange and purple, and the air was warm. "Do you remember when we first met?" Maria asked softly. Ben laughed. "How could I forget? You gave me a sandwich when I had nothing. Maria smiled. And you gave me hope when I felt lonely. They sat quietly for a moment, thinking about how far they had come. Ben said, I never imagined life would bring me this happiness. Maria nodded. Neither did I. But I am grateful. Their story was not one of fairy tales or easy paths. It was a story of courage, kindness, and believing in something better even when the world said otherwise. One day, Maria received an invitation. It was from the local community center. They wanted to honor people who had made a positive change in the neighborhood. Maria and Ben were surprised and happy. Their small daycare had made a big difference, and now others were seeing it too. At the ceremony, Maria and Ben stood side by side. The room was full of people, some who had once doubted them, and many who now respected their hard work and kindness. When Maria spoke, she said, "This honor is not just for us.